U'inyan lav de bayiro by a matzeh b'teruvas chametz, as far as does bayiro by a matzeh apply to teruvas chametz. Kasabnu le'el, he says we discussed this in mitzvah Yud Aleph. The Yeshitas Bazeh, that there are different opinions. The Das Rambam Kan Perek Dala Halacha Ches, the Ovrim, that there is bayiro by a matzeh by teruvas chametz. But we have to know exactly what kind of teruvas chametz. But meanwhile, he says the Rambam holds, in other words, even according to the Rambam, there's a special lav of teruvas chametz, and it's only a lav and not karas, but that's by kazayas b'dechilas pras.
Right.
So you might argue, but there's a special lav by eating. How do you know? How do you know by bayiro by a matzeh it's true? Also, because there is no special pasuk by Baal. So by eating, there was a special pasuk for teruvas, right? By bayiro, there's no special.
But if you didn't have the special pasuk,
by kazayas b'dechilas pras,
then you think you'd be over chametz. I mean, the pasuk seems to be lehekel.
Well, that's we discussed that. The point is, it would have been karas, so the pasuk is only making it loud, or the pasuk wouldn't have been aser because it's teruvas, so that's no good.
Because of rov, right.
So but meanwhile, he just says the Rambam does hold this bayiro by teruvas. Okay, the das. So I have it rush, but it's in parentheses, so we take it out. He says, Das Ramach, the Moshe Hochman Huva, the Magavish, the Sham, the Filu Yoser, Mechleachilas Pras, over our Baal Hira. So I don't know if that he holds that according to the Ram. That's his sheet. And according to the Ram, it seems to be saying that it's only Kazayas B'dechilas Pras you're over. And he says, and Rabbi Moshe Hochman holds even if it's more than a Kazayas B'dechilas Pras. The Hinei L'chor Tzarech Lomer Da'af Yoser B'dechilas Pras Osir Min HaTorah. Meaning that if you don't say min haraisa, because he had slurs before that it was more than a kazayas b'fleich pras, let's say it's a kazayas and 5 beitzim or something like that, it would be batal.
Right. So
if you hold it's batal, there shouldn't be anybody rabbi matzeh either. So that's what he's saying. You must hold that it's not batal. You're not over the eating of it because it's more than a chilus pras, but it's not batal if you hold there is bayiro. That's what he's saying. L'chorah tzarech lomer da'af yosmach le'achilas pras asur min haTorah. The Eino asur min haTorah. It's not even considered like a chatzi share or something. It must be because it's batal. Im kain lo shayach bayiro. If it would be batal, why would there be baal yirah? So it must be you hold that even though you're not chayav on a kazayas on eating on a lav on yosmach le'achilas pras, but at least it's asur and at least it's chatzi share or something, and it's not batal, and therefore you could be over baal yirah because for it you have a kazayas there. I am putting the Gadim or Chaim Psichel Simon Tefman. There's Amad Bazeh. That obviously, if you hold that there's bayiro, you hold it's not batal. Because of the Das Rambam, the after mutter b'achila, even though according to the Torah, if it's a gazayis and more than an achilas pras, it's mutter b'achila. Kagon min demina when yavish yavish that it's batal. So he's batted, it's batal, so why should there be? He said, Mikol Makom, and bayiro is batal, which is a hard thing to hear, that as far as eating it's batal, but still there's bayiro. And he gives an example where sometimes you have a case of batal, it should be batal, and it's for one thing it is batal, for other things it's not. He says, Kamo, we have a Gemara that says in nevela meat, she'enu b'teila b'shchuta, it's a piece of nevela meat. This time of tumas nevela, that fell into a shchuta, so it's not batal when you shchuta when you masa. In other words, if you touch that teruvas of nevela and shchuta, you're not going to be tamei of touching. And we say legabe touching it's batal, but in masa, but still you're carrying. If you carry the whole, let's say it's 5 pounds, you're carrying the whole pounds, you're carrying the nevela too. And we say legabe that it's not batal. So you see somehow, which is hard to understand, but somehow you see it splits up. Because you batal legabe one thing and not batal legabe something else. Right? Das Rambam, could be that's only the Rabbanan. It says, Das Rambam, Perkal, Me'avas Atuma, Halach Yadzayin, Hu Min HaTorah. So you see there could be, according to the Torah, a case, the legabe maga, it's not considered there. It's not like you're touching the vela. And legabe masa, it's still there because for your sure you're touching, for you're carrying it.
So it's not, because you may not be touching the nevela, but the masa for sure you are.
You're right.
So it's not batal because
Yeah, but I don't think that, I hear the way you're learning, but I don't think, I don't know if that's the reason. Could be, you have to work on it, but it could be even it could be, it's mentioned to me that even if you are for sure touching, you're touching that whole mixture. There's no tumas maga, because Lagabe maga, it's batal,
right.
except Lagabe masa, it's not batal in your sign, because it could be each time you touch, you're not touching
right.
that. But what if you're touching the whole thing? Maybe it's not shaykh, because there's inside, outside, I don't know. But to me, it's more mashma that what the Prima Gadam is saying anyway,
right.
is that it's batal Lagabe maga, and it's not batal Lagabe masas. There also the chometz is batal Lagabe achila, but it's not batal Lagabe Bal Yirah, because it's there, which is hard for me to hear, because most people learn Bal Yirah, so you shouldn't come to. It's like a derisa again, that you shouldn't come to eat in there. As far as eating, it's batal, and still that there should be Bal Yirah. It's hard to hear. And accepting his kasushta.
Yeah, but we're talking about batal means that you're not able to recognize it as well. It's batal means that it's not recognizable.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I do know by like batal barov, like if batal barov by pieces of meat, this might be a drobana.
The Ma'apuks were shown if you could eat the whole thing or not.
Yeah.
We hold you could eat it because the Isser's and
but separately, but not at the same.
So most people say that's the Rabban.
Right, because the fact is that like if you take the three pieces and it's already bottled, and put it into a pot,
right.
Cook them, so the bittul doesn't last once it's cooked, but that's mostly a drobana.
Yeah.
So he's talking to Raisa. Yeah.
So let's just finish the paragraph. I just want to show you what it says in the halacha book over here. He says, according to what we said before, that if you this is what we learned, and then he said he's going to be closer later. We said this is where he's being closer. He said before we said the chatzi zayas tarubas. He said let's say you have kazayas v'echilos pras, and you ate only half of it. So you ate a chatzi zayas of tarubas, and then you ate chatzi zayas chametz. Right. So he said before it's mitzvah, because if you took this chatzi zayas tarubas and you added another chatzi zayas tarubas, it would have been starv.
Right.
So how could it be any less if you added another chatzi zayas of real chametz? How could there be any less? Remember that was his svara, that it certainly shouldn't be mitzvah.
Right.
Ka'es, now he says, and then you argued, which we saw that this was his argument. Ka'es shapti barisi, keeping the hem shnei shemos. There's different lavin in the Torah of the teruas, and one is the kol machmetzes and the pasuk v'osocha. I had Ram Perigdali Mechos Seres Lochi Zayin, that he's saying that if the shnei shemos, same as starfin. Even though it's a svara that how could it be, but it's still there's a rule of shnei shemos aren't mitzvah, which was your time. It's different lavin, and when you can't even starve one lav with the other lav. That's what I think you titled at that time, and you see now he's changing with you. I still like the first part better.
I also felt in the Rambam's the two shemos in the Rambam. It's a very strange. I mean, it is two shemos because it's two lavim, but the fact that it's tarubas is it has to be a kazayis of still a kazayis of chametz.
That's right.
So it's not a perfect two shemos. It's like it's a unique achila because you have to eat. You don't have to eat a kazayis of tarubas. You have to eat a kazayis of the chametz in the tarubas. Right. So it's a
to call that maybe that's not called two shemos, right?
Right. That's. Although now he's going back and said it is two shemos because it's
for two different lavin.
Yeah.
Od nira poshet. Furthermore, the im hisru bo al tarubas chametz mishum lo yochel chametz, which is the lav for chametz gomer, but they gave the hasra when they said that hasra. Oh, hisru al chametz gomer mishum lav the kol machmetzes. And a loka, he says it won't be a proper hasra. The lo have a hasra klal. If you got the wrong lav, it's not a good hasra. Kamosha kasav nu kama pamim. In history, misham lav acher eno klum. Even if you don't have to, because it's machlokas, if you have to mention the lav in hasra.
Right.
But Minchas Chinuch said, but if you mention the wrong lav, everybody holds that's no good. So here he's saying also, it also wouldn't be good if it's the wrong lav. So it says over here in this paper, I looked at it right before, so it's not so pasha, because some people hold that terubas isn't nifl in the lav of chametz. But if you, so in other words, if you terubas, you're not over lo socha, but you are over kol machmetzes.
Right.
But some people say that chametz is part of the lav of kol machmetzes for sure. Just that you have a special oyochal to give you karas, but it would be part of kol machmetzes too. So you would be, so if you were given a srab of kol machmetzes, you would be over that lav. To say that that lav is only on terubas, like this different shames, so it's more like what we were saying before. It's not really a different shame that goes on chametz. That would imply chametz also. So okay, but he's saying no. He's saying like he's sticking with his two shames. Like it's a continuation. It's mamish two shames. And you have hasra for kol machmetzes on chametz gomer. You wouldn't be over, which is not too easy because it says kol machmetzes, even though the kol is marba terubas, but it's certainly including the chametz. And he's saying you're not gonna, it wouldn't be a good hasra. He says Lashitas the over by a rabba terubas chametz, which he said before was the Rambam's shita. Pashat the chatzi zayas aide terubas, the chatzi zayas gomer overing, because the Inyan there's no two lapin by Bayira. The Inyan Bayira habalei shem echad. There's no two psukim. B'shneim overing b'lavazah the lo yira chametz. Okay, so I wanted to read to you because this will be a good thing. I want to read for myself also, because I remember that this is from Rabbi Eider from years and years ago. He's not living anymore, but he was very clear in the way he set up things. So when he talks about mixtures of chametz, terubas chametz, and first he's talking about achila, then he talks about bayra. He says, and this is, it shows you how complicated it is. He says there's 4 categories of terubas chametz. He says there's one category which he calls chametz be'en. Chametz be'en is when you have terubas, but the greater majority of the terubas is chametz, or at least 50-50. It's not a meat. Says everybody agrees that if you have you have to eat, of course, a kazayas, but if it's the chametz is more than the other part, everybody agrees then there's karas. That's not called, even though it's mixed with other stuff, but the other stuff is the meat. So everybody agrees. You eat it kazayas mixed. In that case, you're going to be higher.
You eat it first in the chametz.
What? You have to eat it. You have to, because if it had a kazayas, if it had in that process there was more chametz than
but it's not like kazayas of this mixture. Like you don't.
No, you have to eat it.
The heter doesn't turn to iser.
Right. We're not. Yeah, they're not saying that. But if you ate a kazayas of the chametz, and the kazayas was more than the other thing, so it's karas according to everybody as his first degree. That's what he calls chametz, and that's called chametz ben mamish. Then the second case is a kazayas v'teichilas pras, which according to most Rishonim you're chayav karas, because there's some reason the kazayas v'teichilas pras isn't batal. You learn that out of this. Not according to the other Rishonim that you learn that even without a special pasuk. That goes into actual pasuk of karas, even though it's a meat. If a kazayas v'teichilas pras is a meat, still for some reason it's not batal. And according to Moshe Hochman Shiur karas, and according to the Rambam, it's only a lav, and we have the shala, what would have been without the lav? Would it be karas and a lav? As a Yusha said, so take it away, or but most people, I think people learned without the pasuk, it wouldn't have been even so that's why they asked other machos or so we don't say it doesn't apply. But anyway, but the Rambam, that's the machos. That's he calls the second category, kazayas v'teichilas pras. Okay. Then he says category C is called Tama V'lo Mamasho. And he calls Tama V'lo Mamasho, not what I would normally think tam is, we only have tam. He says Tama V'lo Mamasho is if you have any ratio of where it's not a kazayas but le'achilas pras. Let's say pras is 4 eggs, so if you have a kazayas with 5 eggs. Right? He says even though you have chametz be'en there, right? But he says that's called Tama V'lo Mamasho.
And you have to have tam chametz.
Yeah. So you have a tam chametz, but you also you have a kazayas, but not le'achilas pras. So he says the mixture contains a larger proportion of permissible food than the second category, right? Yet you could still taste the chametz. According to Rashi, this category starts where the ratio is 1 kazayas of chametz to more than the combined volume of 4 eggs, because he holds pras is 4 eggs. and continues, so anything more, kazayas and more than 4 eggs, and continues with a ratio of 1 kazayas of chametz to less than 60 kazayas, because once it's 60 kazayas permissible, it's going to be different madrega. So this is called tamil masho, and the Rambam is the same thing. It's tamil masho, except according to the Rambam, it's 3 eggs and not 4 eggs, because it's a shala what pras is. That's tamil masho. So eating food in this category, what's the din? According to the Rambam, there's no issa deraisa. It's not chametz kamer. It's not terubas chametz even, but it's only but there is a draban.
His heel stomp kick is only draban.
Yeah,
right.
I guess. And then he says, eating food in this category, according to the Rambam, is an issa drabanan. According to most poskim, this is the machlokas in the Gemara between Rav Lazar and Chachamim. Rav Lazar says it's asur min Torah, and you even get malchus, and Chachamim say it's only an asur d'Rabbanan. Okay. He says these are all discussing Minchas Chinuch, where you have Tom. And he says the 4th category is where there's shishim of heter, and according to Torah, chametz is batal. Then the question is, Rabbanan were machber if it happened on Pesach, so there were machber on Masho, and then there's cases even if it happened before Pesach, there's a shala when you say chos v'nir, you don't say chos v'nir, but those are all the Rabbanan-dik svaras. So that is, then he says, why would they machber on Masho? So that's different svaras, okay. But, so that, and then he gets not okay. But that's as far as achila. Then on the next page he discusses, what about Bal Yirah? So he says in the first category of chametz be'en, where it's not, but there's not even, it's a robe of chametz, everybody holds this, Bal Yirah, Bal Matzi, as long as there's a kazayas, and it's 50-50 or a robe. Okay. Then he says the last category where there's shishim, everybody holds there's no Isra, Bal Yirah, and Bal Yamatzeh. It's not even Tamil Masho, and everybody else is none. He said the question is, the middle 2 madregas, kazayas b'deichli is pras, and the madrega of Tamil below Masho, which he says is the kazayas and more than the pras. Right. So he says, when are you, which mixture does one violate Bal Yirah by Yamatzeh? He says for the first category, chametz be'en, for sure there's Bal Yirah. There's no shaila about that. For the last category where the chametz is batal b'shishim, before Pesach, it's called a masho, right? So even if you eat it on Pesach, you're not over. Certainly you're not over by Yirah by Yamatzeh. Okay, and then he's going to talk about later b'drabanan, where it's closed veneer and stuff like that, but that we're not going to go.
I was just wondering, if the idea that there's no, that even mashu, it's not batal on Pesach.
Right.
Does that mean you're over by Yirah by Yamatzeh on that?
That's only the Rabbanan Digadin. The whole din of Masha on Pesach is...
So you're not over, is there Rabbanan by Yirah?
Right. I don't know. Maybe he's going to say, but I don't know. I mean, it says by chametz they're machmer because it's a davar sheyesh lo. By eating, they were machmer to wait till after Pesach. Although that's where davar sheyesh materin is not a svar legabi by matzeh. But if the svar is there was not a chumrah in chametz, because the skaris and the b'dilim in it, maybe they were machmer legabi by Yirah. So that maybe they'll say, I don't know. Okay. But he said category 1 and category 4. He said, what's the case? What about category? First, Kasayas K'leach pras, and then the other case of Kasayas more than a pras. He says the Magen Mishnah says that one does not violate the Isurim of Bal Yirah and Bal Yamatzeh unless there's a Kasayas K'leach Ilus pras. But by Kasayas, which was what he brought down, the Rambam sheet is that Kasayas K'leach pras you are over Bal Yirah and Bal Yamatzeh. But the Magen Mishnah says clearly that if it's a Kasayas and more than a Chilus pras, let's say Kasayas and 4 eggs or 5 eggs, he says you're not over by Yirah by Yamatzeh, even though there's a kazayas of chametz there, but you're not over. Doesn't say exactly why is it. Does he hold because it's batal, or it's kamazeh? There's no pasuk, like could be there's no reason to say you are over. He doesn't.
There's no Esser on it.
He doesn't say there's no Esser Achila on it. He doesn't say why, but he says you're not over. You have to, maybe the Magen Mishnah says it, but in this book he doesn't say why. The Kesef Mishnah in Rav Moshe Hochman, which he holds over there, says you are over on not only kazayas b'deichlius pras, but even if it's a kazayas and more than a chilus pras, because by eating, and I think the story is like this. The story would be if it's bato, you shouldn't be over. Minchas Chinuch is saying, even though it's batal, it brings us Pri Megadim, it's batal Lagabi Achilu, but it's not batal Lagabi Bal Yirah. But that's not the svara that he brings on b'shem. Then he said their svara is Bishlama, when it's a kazayas in the time of more than a chilas pras, it's not called you ate the kazayas but pasachas, because you have to eat the kazayas in a certain time. So the time, which is a chilas pras, and if it's in a chilas pras, you don't have a kazayas, so you didn't eat the kazayas in one shot. It's like you ate a part of the kazayas now, and the fifth egg was after this man. So it's like eating half a kazayas now, and an hour later another half a kazayas, which is not mitzvah lagabi an iser deraisa. So therefore they say if it's more than a kazayas, so that's good as far as a chil, it's not mitzvah, right? But as far as bal yirah, why shouldn't you be over bal yirah? You have a kazayas.
So wait, so mine is a connection between bal yirah and the chila and the shagasayas argument. You know, like if the isser of chila, if the isser kazayas by bal yirah b'matzah is because the potential to eat it. So since it's not possible to eat this
there shouldn't be about
there shouldn't be a bal yirah b'matzah. But they're obviously saying
they're not saying that.
They're not saying that.
Yeah, but he's not also saying, but he's not saying the svara like Minchas Chinuch is saying. Because, like, if it's more than something like it's batal, and the svara would be if it's batal, there's no. They're not saying it's batal because they hold it would be batal. They wouldn't be bal yirah by let's say. Also, there's and he never brought that up. I mean, he kept on saying the svara was that if it's more than a kazayah to fras. He kept on saying even last time. He always said because it's batal. Right here also he says it's batal. Why should it be bal yirah? He brings this Pri Megadim. There's a chiluk of. It's batal like nevel and shchut. It's batal lagabe magan. It's not batal lagabe. It's batal lagabe magan, not batal lagabe mas. So he was trying to say it's batal lagabe lagabe eating, but they're saying it's not batal. Just that it's a kazayas one chelas pras. You're not eating it within the right allotted time.
But
bal yirah doesn't make a difference. It's there, so it's there. Okay. So he says their reason, and he says their reason is Masha, that's what they say, analyses, their reason is that because after it's required only where one eats the mixture, because less than this would be comparable to eating part of the exayas today and the rest of the exayas the next day. It's not, you're not eating together in the right amount. However, for the Yisurim of bal yirah by matzah, as long as the chametz isn't batal, and as long as they were saying, as long as it's not the batal l'shishim, the vessel contains a kazayas, and the kazayas of chametz is assured to violate this from bal yirah by matzah. So therefore, they hold as bal yirah by matzah, even if it's more than a kazayas, if it's a kazayas more than a chilas pras. So l'chara, that's the first determining factor, because it's a whole shaila what the idea of kazayas is it batal or not? Because I don't know. You even asked how do we know by kazayas what the chilas pras? Well, whatever happened to the rules of bittul road? The old Tom Kicker is their bun. We saw someone say because here everybody agrees by chametz Tom Kicker is according to Rambam is the right. So we saw someone say that last week. So that's what you have to really work on the Gemara.
That can be the chiddush of the that's the other way of learning the chiddush of the Yesur. Is that really it should be batal? The chiddush is
it's not.
It's not.
It's not batal.
But if
it's a kazayas more than a chelas pras, then it should be. You don't have that chiddush. And then it should be batal, and it shouldn't be bal yirah b'matzah. But they're saying it's not batal, which is what the Minchas Chinuch held that it's batal. And that's why he had a problem. So why should it be bal yirah? And the Maggid Mishnah says there is bal yirah.
Yeah, I mean the argument for Maggid Masa over there is that you see difference in terms of rov and so on and so forth, but he doesn't give an argument why there should be. He's saying you see the possibility of a difference, but he doesn't say why should there be a difference.
So it's not, and especially be bal yirah like you're saying, should be telling the chila and the
if it is, I mean, yeah,
so it's hard. But they're not saying that. They're saying because it's Lagabi Achila, you need a tziruf, and there's no tziruf with too much time. But by Yirah, you don't need a tziruf. And okay, then he says, but if it's batal l'shishim, however, for the Yisurim by Yirah by Matzah, if it's batal l'shishim, then he says, we said before that everybody agrees you're not going to be over. Then but he doesn't discuss what about Midrash Rabban. Maybe later he does. He goes in later that this din of Mashu, Chametz on Pesach Mashu, the Yavish, Lach, or is it before Pesach, it's a Choser. Yeah, that's a whole discussion, but he doesn't go back to body raw in those cases, I don't think. I don't see him discussing. It's a complicated, this whole idea of Kazayas B'deichel Press. Because you see most Rishonim, that's by all Yisurim. We don't say it's Batal. Was that because it's Tam Kik or because it's a Kazayas? I mean, because I know it's a big Machos Rishonim if we pass on Tam Kik as the rights renown. But all these poskim are saying that except for the Ram, Kazayas B'deichel Press by all Macholos Asuras and by Chametz, it's the same thing, and the whole actual Isser goes on it. And by chametz is karas, by everything else, whatever you're eating, it would be chaylev, would be karas also. Even though l'chora it's a miyut, but since the time is nicker and it's mamish, you don't say it's. That's not because of tam kicker. That's because there's mamish in there, and it's and you know there's a mamish, and the mamish has a time. We don't say mamish is a batal, even though there's rov heter.
But the other Rishonim, they hold it's just a kazayas of the taruvas, but they hold it's chametz more. It's chametz more. There's more than a kazayas. There's less than a kazayas in kedei chilus pras, right?
You're not over. You're only saying that you're chayav karas on a kazayas but chilus pras.
Well, that's going to the Ram. No, that's what they're saying.
So Ram says it's only allowed.
So the Yisur Taruvas, the Yisur Taruvas is you can't eat something where it's a kazayas. What does the Ramban say? The Yisur is.
What did he actually say the Yisur Taruvas is?
Yeah, that was the Einon actually called Lovin. Well, he doesn't say it's part of Lovin, but
he doesn't say what it was. He didn't say.
Oh, see, I'm trying to remember, like, what about a kazayas in more than the Achilles Pras?
I don't see anyone holds it could be a derisa. Maybe they hold it's not batal on the Chatzi Shir, but I can also see because if you didn't eat it, because if manushach, if you ate, no one holds the heter becomes isser.
Right.
So the most they could, if you only ate with Achilles Pras, you didn't eat a kazayas chametz. So how could they hold that there's a wow, must have lapped it up. But he never said, no one ever said that that's what they hold a lot was going on.
So, okay, from Tarus Kazayas Bekteach His Pras, awful pater about Asa.
He says, according to most poskim, not the Rambam, but if you have a Kazayas and more than a Chilus Pras, that is the Machokas of the Gemara between Rabbi Lazar and a Chachamim. Before he brought down, there was a machokas hayapaskin like Rabbi Lazar or the Chachamim.
Right.
Rabbi Lazar was his reason because it says kol machmatzos, or he brought a different pasuk.
Sorry, but what exactly is the isser? What you have to know? It
was kazayas and more than a chilus prasik.
So how much you have to eat of it? In other words, it's a kazayas of the Torah. Does he have to become isser because of that? Because of the
yeah, I think you only had to eat a kazayas, but that was because of the special pasuk.
It was the special issue of the tarubas.
Yeah, but what was the pasuk that he brought? I wonder if that was the call. Is he being down?
Well, I think that's. If he's saying this is called machmeses, and he says this is the. Shalav is a eno nechshav b'kol halavim. It's just a thing.
He says before he brings in last mitzvah Yudbeis he brings in the Rambam. Then he says the Ramban says that halav hazeh einenu nechshav b'kol halavim. Elashu min halavim harabim. It's not bimar but anything shabbat. It's another lav of chametz and sore, but another it's not. Uzah halav bol lahoras lamash ramach chachayim mara ein leelash is chametz me'elav chimsor deyaper. It's not another. It's nothing to do with shiurim or nothing like that. So, but he doesn't explain over here.
Right.
Pe'imi yebet terubas ksas b'dechilas pras ha'ochlo. He says in lo yebet terubas ksas b'ras. He says it's pater avol aser. Kaz halacha kadirik chachamim. Then that kazayas more than a chayil pras is only. Right, so it's, but he doesn't say. He said, and it's not like, and they say the halacha is not like Rabbi Eliezer, the Poligola, V'Amar Ali Ruvo B'Lav, but he doesn't say, is he because holds that Kol Machmas is a lav, and then it's all if you passing like the Chacham, like Ramah is passing the Chacham, but I remember he said there's some people that pass like Rabbi Eliezer, but that's, but I think the lav that Rabbi Eliezer is talking about is the pasuk of Kol Machmas, but we're saying according to Chacham, you don't darshan Kol Machmas, so it comes out Kazayas more than the Chleach Hil's Pras. Is only the Rabbanan, or maybe he'll say it's not batal, it's Chatzi Shir, but it's certainly not a lav. But the way he brings down, it's only it's pater of a osir, but he doesn't say clearly if it's Chatzi Shir or not.
He says Ali Ruba Komishu Pach below Klum. He says Chiz Pach below Klum, so he seems to imply that it's batal at that point in time.
Where does it say that lesson?
He says Avalasha Shal Hidiber Chamisham Chametz Datin Gamar Anush. Correct. So Kol Shu Gazayis B'Keich Nishbas Datin Gamar Nikra Ali Ruba Klomer Shu Pachas Nikdeich B'Kazayis B'Keich below Klum. This is language below Klum.
So it could be means because before he leaves the lesson pater of a lesser.
Yeah, but that might be a Drabanan.
Yeah, but it could be he means below Klum. There's no onus, It could be he means.
But the question is Rabbi Eliezer,
who calls it a love?
Who's calling it a love?
He probably darshes that from Kol.
Machmetzes, and see that the head returns to that it's Kazayis, so there's new.
Teruz.
Have a look at the Gemara.
Yeah, it's the beginning of the second pair is by Kutach, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a little bit more clear, but there's such basic things what they're arguing about. It's like it's really, you have to know really Machol so serious. Okay, that's as far as.
Yeah.
So we're finished with Teruvas. The next time you're learning Teruvas, and that obviously you have to go into Linyan Tom Kicker. What's Tom Kicker? Take use the races there, because that's no gay. This whole issue, which Tom Kicker is also very complicated. Okay. So now let's go right there. I was going to go on. First, he finished. We got to go to Yerah. Now I was going to go, and he talked about chametz. Now he's going to talk about chametz nuksha, right? Os daled.
Right.
V'nei nuksha yesh shitas v'sfirlei da'asim in Torah from the pasuk of Kol Machmetzes. V'gam ken mikrad zed Kol Machmetzes. The Kol Machmetzes is talking about nuksha. V'yesh sovrin that nuksha is the lo havi rak the Rabbanim. Ayin Torah Chaim Siman Tov Beis brings the Machlokas Rishoni. The Ayin Barachronim, that there are two categories. The Trey, he said this last week also, the Trey, Muksha, Yesh. Also, in all the cases which are mentioned in the second paras, Hanachshavim and Mishnah P'sachim and Beis out solving the Haim of the Rabbanim. He says all those kinds of cases of Nuksha, which is in a completed chametz, is only of the Rabbanim type of Nuksha. However, and he said this last time, in May Peros Imayim, which the Gemara says is chametz nuksha, modim dehave deraisa. That kind of nuksha is a deraisa, and he didn't say why. But that's what the Achronim say. Ayin v'kor chaim siman tafsal beis al-sinasivas v'ne'ozer siman tafsal beis. I guess they make these chilukim in two types of nuksha. So that's as far as nuksha. So let me just see how he brings down nuksha.
He's saying that this nuksha that's the right, so that's under Kol Machmetzes.
Yeah, we use the Kol for that.
Yeah.
He says, chametz nuksha is one case where the process of chametz has started but was stopped and impeded, so it's not fully chametz. And Bay is a spoiled chametz, which although unfit to be eaten normally, it's not really suitable to be eaten with difficulty. So it's achila yedei tzchak. The first, that's only says first two. He doesn't. We'll see if he doesn't even bring down Mayim with silver anyway. The first type of chametz nuksha is where the process of chametz has started but was not completed. It was stopped or impeded along the way. This is called sior. in the Talmud, not to be confused with Seor, which is leavening, right? Because that's certainly chametz and Seor is usher, but this is called Seor, where a dough started the fermentation process. The dough became pale, white in color, but did not complete the process. That is, how do you know if it's completed or not? There are no crevices in the dough. In the regular chametz, there's crevices, and here, where it wasn't completed, there's no crevices in the dough. Okay, so it's not a complete chametz-like procedure. Included in this type of chametz is the problem of egg matzah, which many people incorrectly assume that you're allowed to eat egg matzah on Pesach. Egg matzahs are usually baked from a dough in which fruit juice is used in place of water. Even if they would be kneaded only with eggs, matzah baked with eggs are considered an halacha like matzah baked with fruit juice. The post can say that the minhag is not to permit kneading matzahs with fruit juice before Pesach. Even if it was kneaded and baked, it may not be eaten on Pesach, but it may be held, there's no bayra, may be held until after Pesach. According to Rashi, egg matzahs can become chametz nuksha. According to Rabbi Tam, we are afraid that that's why the machber, it can become chametz nuksha. According to Rabbi Tam, we are afraid that water may get mixed in and thereby become chametz nuksha. The other posting hold that if water is mixed in it, it can become chametz gamur. Okay, the Ramah says that one should not deviate from the minhag except in case of great need for a person who is ill or old and requires it. However, a healthy person may not eat egg matzah on Pesach. Please note, many whole wheat and chocolate covered matzahs are made with eggs and fruit juice. Therefore, their halacha is the same as egg matzahs, and that's why some companies have a thing only to be eaten by sick people, and others don't put it, and they get upset with them. Okay, that's the first type where there wasn't completely fermented. Also, he puts into that first category in fruit juice and egg matzah.
Is he making a distinction between with water or without? He's not making that distinction.
He hasn't discussed that, no. Fakir. Well, I'm going to see if he does. Then he says the second type of chametz nuksha is where it was spoiled. So it's not fit for human consumption except al dei hatchak. This is a paste made of flour and water, which began fermenting, although it was never fit for normal human consumption, and one is capable of eating it with al dei hatchak. So that's called chametz nuksha. And if it was nifsal mechilas kelev, then it's nothing at all. If it was never fit for normal human consumption because it was once fit and it deteriorated, it's still prohibited. Unless it comes to the madrega of nifsal mechilas kelev, and then it's not prohibited at all. But he says if it was fit on Pesach, and on Pesach became unfit, then since at the beginning of Pesach it was fit, you still have to get rid of it. Right, but he doesn't mention his two types of chametz nuksha with fruit juice and water. Chametz, which is unfit for achilas adam, there's not any, you could keep it l'chatchila. There's no need in having salt.
It seems to me that without water it's only trulbanim. According to what the Minchas Chinuch said, right?
Right. But he hasn't mentioned that there's a chametz nuksha. He just said there's two types of chametz nuksha, both of them he's calling derabbanos. He doesn't mention this other madrega that there are people that hold it with water. He doesn't mention it. He doesn't set it aside as he says. According to Rashi, egg matzahs, which are considered like with fruit juices, can become chametz nuksha. And according to the other Rishonim, that itself cannot become chametz nuksha, but we're afraid you can't have egg matzahs because we're afraid that water may get mixed in it and become chametz nuksha.
He's saying alone without the water, he says can
Rashi holds it could become chametz nuksha. Fruit
therefore it's not chametz.
It's possible. So I guess it can ferment a little bit and become chametz nuksha. Rabbi Tam holds it can't. But if you mix in it with water, it could become chametz nuksha. So he's saying clearly that the problem is with water. So it could be. He doesn't discuss that it would be a deraisa, because according to these achronim that he's saying, then it would be a deraisa. He doesn't just say. He just says Rabbeinu Tam holds in that case fruit juice and water can become nuksha. Then he says, and there are even some poskim hold that if water mixes with it, it can become chametz gamur. But
after it's baked?
I don't think he means after it's
baked.
Baked. I mean, fruit juice.
Talking about the dough with the fruit juice. The dough with fruit juice.
And with kosher, you can't do that because we're afraid that water might mix into it, and it'll become chametz gomer. But he doesn't bring a sheet that it becomes nuksha, but that nuksha is a deraisa. He doesn't mention. So according to him, that nuksha, he's achronim are saying it would be a
deraisa.
Deraisa.
But the interesting thing is that, but his concern, let's say you already baked the egg matzah. So when he says you can't keep the egg matzah, like he said, you can't keep it around because it could be because he's afraid it could be mixed with water. But that's only in the dough stage. If you baked it, then
what's the problem? Should
keep
be
it
able
around.
to keep it.
But if you bake it, it would still. When Rashi says it can become chametz nuksha, I mean, if
once
you bake
it can't.
Right? But then, see, already saying this chametz. I heard like by egg matzah, there's a question we don't know when it's right.
Baked or not.
We don't know when the time. But like by regular chametz, 18 minutes. But supposedly with
egg matzah, we don't know the time.
We don't know the time.
This is according to Rashi. If it gets mixed with water, even without becoming mixed with water, it could become chametz nuksha. We don't know how long it takes to become chametz nuksha. But the most it would be is chametz nuksha was the rabbanon.
But chametz nuksha.
And the other Rishonim hold it doesn't even become chametz nuksha just with fruit.
Right. So within the 18 minutes, you're not becoming chametz nuksha either. Like
could be longer, you mean, or could be shorter. We don't know to become.
But it seems to be like usually you think 18 minutes. It's like you're black and white, right? 17 minutes 43 seconds. It's
not chametz.
18 minutes. But it seems that this thing of chametz nuksha,
we don't know.
We don't know. But it seems to be that it's still not going to become chametz gomer because it only has fruit juice in it.
Right. But when does it become chametz nuksha? Is it less than 18 minutes, more than 18 minutes? So we
that's
don't know.
what I heard was a question. And that's why, because theoretically, if you make egg matzah the same way you make matzah, and you're always kneading it and so forth and so forth, so why don't you make it just within the 18 minutes? So I remember someone told me that because there was a question of us of not knowing when it becomes. I guess when it becomes chametz nuksha.
I'm just thinking maybe that's what these achronim are saying, because according to Rabbi Natan, according to what he's saying, they don't want to agree with Rashi. They all was just fruit water. It doesn't even become chametz nuksha, right? They say, but if it's fruit water or fruit juice, we're afraid that some water mixed in, then it could become chametz nuksha. According to Rabbi Natan, he says Rabbi Natan holds it could become chametz nuksha. So maybe they were afraid. Maybe they're saying they're shot. That if chametz nuksha is good for the rabbanon, it's like a gzera. You're making a gzera on fruit juice because you're afraid maybe some water will be mixed in and will become chametz nuksha. So why isn't that like a gzera like chametz nuksha good?
Right.
So maybe that's why they're saying this kind of chametz nuksha is a deraisa like a chametz nuksha. But then he's saying, which he doesn't bring, but then there's another third sheet that if it gets mixed up with water, it could become chametz gomer.
Right.
So maybe. I thought he meant real chametz with kosher, but maybe that's not what he meant. Maybe he meant some hold it's a gzera or mixed with water becomes chametz nuksha, and that chametz nuksha is only at the rabbanon type of chametz nuksha, and somehow you say gzera, whatever it is, and the other one holds no, it becomes chametz nuksha. That chametz nuksha is chametz gomer. Then he just means it's a deraisa like a deraisa. Maybe that's what these achronim are saying. I don't know. You have to look at it. And what time is it?